Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. You guys sent in some intense stories for this one, all about close calls and surviving some really harrowing situations.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of everything here. Skiing accidents, tornadoes, even a bear encounter. It's going to be a wild ride.
Definitely wild. We'll be looking at excerpts from Close Calls, harrowing tales of survival from the Black Veil podcast. So let's jump right in and see what we can uncover.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're going to start off with something that you might not think is super dangerous at first glance.
Okay.
Skiing. Now, while most people think of it as, just a fun winter sport, you might be surprised to learn that there's an average of 54 skiing-related deaths every single year, just in the U.S.
Wow, that's a lot more than I would have guessed.
Yeah, and what's even crazier is that more than half of these deaths happen on beginner slopes.
Oh, that's really interesting. I would have thought for sure that the more advanced slopes would be where most of the accidents happen.
Right, you would think so, but it turns out that's not the case. So why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons.
Yeah, I'm curious.
One of them is overconfidence. Beginners might think they're better skiers than they actually are, and that can lead them to taking risks that they're just not ready for.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've definitely seen that happen on the slopes. People getting a little too cocky and then wiping out pretty hard.
Exactly. And then you also have to factor in like the social pressure. People want to keep up with their friends or family on the slopes, and that can sometimes lead to bad decisions.
Oh, for sure. It's easy to get caught up in the moment and try to do things that are beyond your skill level just because you don't want to hold everyone else back.
Yeah. And then on top of all that, even though helmets are super important and can definitely help, they're not a guaranteed lifesaver.
Right. They can only do so much.
They're really designed for impacts at lower speeds, but skiers often collide at much higher speeds than that, sometimes exceeding what those helmets are actually designed to withstand.
So it's kind of like a false sense of security in a way.
Right. It's a good reminder that no matter how experienced you are or what gear you have, safety always has to be the top priority.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about a story that raises some really serious questions about safety in the world of filmmaking
Okay.
and the balance between creative vision and the well-being of the people involved.
Mm.
This is the story of the Midnight Rider incident, which is a tragic accident that happened back in 2014.
I think I remember hearing about this.
Yeah, it involved a film crew that was shooting a dream sequence on train tracks.
On actual train tracks.
Yeah, real train tracks.
Yeah.
And the crew was filming a scene with a hospital bed on the tracks trying to get a really dramatic shot, but they didn't factor in enough time to actually remove the bed before a train came barreling through.
Oh my gosh. That's terrifying.
It was a horrifying miscalculation. One of the crew members, Sarah Jones, was hit by the train and tragically killed.
That's so awful.
The footage of the moments leading up to the impact is absolutely chilling. You can see the panic as they realize the train is coming and they don't have time to clear the tracks. It's a stark reminder that no creative vision, no matter how grand or ambitious, is worth risking human life.
Absolutely no question about it.
The director of the film was actually convicted of manslaughter, and this whole incident really forced the film industry to take a long, hard look at their safety protocols and make sure something like this never happens again.
Yeah, it definitely sparked a much-needed conversation about responsibility and accountability on film sets.
Right. It really brings up a lot of ethical questions about how far you can push those creative boundaries and how to make sure that safety is never, ever compromised, even in the pursuit of art.
Finding that balance is so crucial.
All right, so let's move on to a story that revolves around a recreational activity that probably sounds pretty harmless at first. Zorbing. Where you climb inside that giant inflatable ball and roll downhill.
Yeah, I've seen videos of that. It looks like so much fun.
Yeah, it does until things go wrong. And in this case, they went very wrong.
Oh no, what happened?
So 2 men in Russia were zorbing down a mountain, and at some point they veered off course,
Oh.
and they started tumbling down the mountainside out of control for almost a mile.
Oh my God, a
Yeah.
mile.
A mile. And the whole thing was caught on camera. It's pretty terrifying to watch.
I bet. It must have been like being trapped inside a giant washing machine.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And what's really scary is that there's no way to steer or brake once you're inside that Zorb. So once they lost control, they were just at the mercy of gravity and the terrain.
That's so scary. It makes you realize how quickly things can spiral out of control.
Yeah, and the impact of hitting those rocks and bumps at that speed was brutal. One of the men didn't survive.
Oh, that's just awful.
It's a reminder that even activities that seem harmless and fun can be incredibly dangerous if the proper safety precautions aren't in place or if something unexpected happens.
Yeah, it's like we always have to be aware of the risks involved no matter what we're doing.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about a close call with a creature that a lot of people have kind of a romanticized view of.
The Marsa.
Bears.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. People love to see those cute bear cubs and stuff, but they can be incredibly dangerous.
Absolutely. And this story really challenges that whole idea of bears just being playful and cuddly. It involves two men who were out for a jog on a trail in Canada when they encountered a black bear.
Oh.
The bear started stalking them, following them down the trail.
That's terrifying. I wouldn't know what to do.
It's a nightmare scenario for sure.
Oh.
But luckily, these guys kept their cool and did exactly what experts recommend in that situation. They huddled together to make themselves appear larger, and they started making noise as they slowly backed away.
Smart thinking.
Yeah, they definitely kept their wits about them. And eventually the bear did lose interest and wander off, but those guys were incredibly lucky.
They definitely were. It could have ended so much worse.
Right. And, you know, it's easy to mistake curiosity for aggression when it comes to wild animals. You might think, oh, the bear's just checking us out. But more often than not, those encounters are predatory in nature.
Yeah, especially when it comes to black bears.
Right.
I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, that's right. Over 90% of black bear encounters are actually predatory in nature.
Hmm.
So it's crucial to remember that we are visitors in their habitat, and we need to respect their space and understand their behavior.
Absolutely. And know what to do if you do come face to face with one.
Exactly. Different bear species require different responses. So for black bears, like in this story, making yourself look big and making noise is generally the recommended approach.
But what about grizzlies?
If it's a grizzly bear, experts suggest playing dead.
Oh, wow. That's the opposite.
It is. So you really have to know your bears.
Yeah.
Doing your research beforehand and carrying bear spray is never a bad idea.
Good advice.
All right, now get ready for a story that showcases the raw, untamed power of nature. A terrifying encounter with a tornado.
Oh, man, I can only imagine.
This story really emphasizes the importance of being prepared because you never know when nature might decide to throw you a curveball.
You just never know.
Okay, so the story starts with a man who's filming his neighborhood. It's a beautiful day. Everything is calm and peaceful. And suddenly he spots a tornado in the distance.
Oh.
Yeah, and in that moment, everything changes. The mood shifts from serenity to dread as this massive force of nature starts heading his way. He rushes inside to be with his family, and then you hear the roar of the tornado passing directly over their house.
That must be so scary.
It is. The wind howling debris hitting the house, and you can hear the fear in his voice as he's trying to protect his loved ones. Then everything goes silent. It's eerie how quiet it gets after the storm passes. You can almost feel the weight of the destruction that's been left behind.
And then what happens?
He goes outside to assess the damage, and it's devastating. His neighborhood is completely transformed. Homes reduced to rubble trees, uprooted. The landscape is unrecognizable. It's just a stark contrast to that peaceful scene from the beginning of the video.
Wow. It just goes to show that nature can unleash its power in an instant.
Yeah, Mother Nature doesn't mess around. It's a
No.
powerful reminder that we often take for granted the stability of our environment. But, you know, while we can't control the weather, we can be prepared.
Exactly. We can take steps to protect ourselves.
Right? Things like knowing what to do during a tornado warning, having a designated safe room or shelter, and having an emergency plan in place can literally mean the difference between life and death.
It's all about being proactive and respecting the power of nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's incredible how quickly things can change. One minute you're enjoying a nice day, the next you're in a life or death situation.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It's a good reminder to appreciate the little things and to never take anything for granted.
And, you know, even though we've been focusing on some pretty intense stories, I think it's important to acknowledge the strength and resilience that shines through in these moments of crisis.
Oh, definitely. People can be amazing when they're put to the test.
We see acts of courage, quick thinking, and this incredible determination to survive even when the odds are stacked against them.
Like that man in the tornado video, risking everything to make sure his family was safe.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual acts of bravery. It's also about how communities come together to support each other during and after these events.
You see the best of humanity in those moments. People helping strangers rebuilding their lives together. It's truly inspiring.
It is. It's a reminder that even in the face of danger and uncertainty, we're not alone. There's always someone out there willing to lend a helping hand.
And sometimes that helping hand comes from the most unexpected places.
Yeah, you never know who your guardian angel might be.
That's the truth.
So what have we learned today? Well,
It seems like every story we talked about just reinforces this one key idea over and over again.
what's that?
That life is precious and unpredictable, and we need to be prepared for anything.
I agree. And even though these stories are about close calls and harrowing experiences, they also highlight the incredible strength and resilience of the human spirit.
They really do, and that's something worth celebrating, even in the midst of all the chaos and danger.
It is. It's a reminder that even when things seem their darkest, there's always hope and a reason to keep fighting.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It kind of hit me, looking at all these stories side by side.
What's that?
This element of chance.
Yeah.
Like you could be an amazing skier, a filmmaker on set, or just out for a jog, and bam, suddenly you're in a life or death situation.
That's the truth. We often think, oh, that'll never happen to me, but these close calls are a huge wake-up call.
Yeah.
We're all vulnerable.
And that vulnerability, it's like it gets amplified by our own choices sometimes,
Yeah.
Whether it's overconfidence like we talked about with those skiers, or maybe a lapse in judgment on a film set, or just not being aware of your surroundings when you're in bear country.
Yeah,
Our decisions, they have consequences.
for sure. It's like that saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yeah, that's it. It's not about living in fear or anything,
Yeah.
but just having a healthy respect for the potential dangers out there and taking steps to be as safe as possible.
Exactly. Like knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
Before you do anything, especially if it has some inherent risks, just take a few minutes to understand what could go wrong and how to stay safe.
Right. Like if you're going hiking in bear country, read up on bear safety. If you're hitting the slopes, check the weather forecast. Just be aware of your surroundings.
All good advice. And another thing, don't underestimate the power of your gut feeling.
Oh yeah, intuition.
If something feels off, trust it. That little voice in your head might be trying to tell you something important.
It's like when you're about to cross the street and something just tells you to look again, even though the light is green.
Exactly. Sometimes our instincts, they pick up on things that our conscious mind misses.
And communication, that's huge too, especially if you're part of a group.
Yeah, if you're on a film crew or a hiking trip or even just out with your family, make sure everyone is on the same page about safety procedures.
And don't be afraid to speak up if something seems off. Even if you're the least experienced person in the group, your observation could prevent a tragedy.
Right. It's like that saying, see something, say something. It applies to so many situations.
It really does. And another thing that these stories really highlight, that human capacity for resilience and compassion.
Oh, yeah, in the face of danger.
Exactly. Even when people are facing terror and loss, we see these incredible acts of courage, selflessness, and this will to survive.
Like that man in the tornado video, trying to keep his family safe as his world is falling apart around him.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can really shine through.
And it also shows how important community is. We're stronger together, and when something bad happens, we need to be there for each other to help each other out, both physically and emotionally.
It's about building those support systems so that when the unexpected hits, we have people we can count on.
And it's not just about responding to crises, It's about fostering a sense of connection every day, making us all more resilient to whatever life throws our way.
So what does this all mean for us as individuals? What can we take away from these stories?
I think it comes down to this. Be mindful of your own vulnerability, take responsibility for your choices, and cultivate a spirit of preparedness and compassion.
And never underestimate the power of human connection.
Well said. We're all in this together.
We are.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground today, but I want to leave you with one final thought, something to ponder as you go about your day.
I'm listening.
In the grand scheme of things, we're all just little specks on this planet, hurtling through space.
Yeah.
But even in our smallness, we have the power to make choices that affect our lives and the lives of others.
Yeah.
So let's choose wisely. Let's be kind. Let's be brave. And let's never stop learning from the stories of those who came before us. That idea of learning from those who came before us, it made me think about something else. It's like these close calls, they're not just about surviving. They're also about the stories that we leave behind.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting.
What do we want to be remembered for?
Right. Our legacy.
Exactly. Like take Sarah Jones, for example. Her tragic death on that film set, it really sparked a movement in the film industry.
Yeah, to prioritize safety.
Right, to make sure that something like that never happens again.
So her story, it became a catalyst for change. A reminder that even in those fast-paced creative environments, Safety should never be an afterthought.
And those men who had that encounter with the bear on the trail, their story is all about quick thinking and knowing how to react under pressure.
For sure, they could have easily panicked.
Totally. But they stayed calm, used their knowledge about bear behavior, and it saved their lives.
Yeah, and now their experience, it's like a valuable lesson for anyone else venturing into bear country.
And then you have the man who filmed that tornado. His story, it captures so much. The fragility of life, the importance of family, and that resilience, in the face of total devastation.
It's like a reminder that even when it seems like everything is lost, there's always hope and the possibility of rebuilding.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. All these close calls, they demonstrate that our actions, they have these ripple effects.
Yeah, they go way beyond ourselves.
It's like a chain reaction. One decision, one moment of courage, one act of kindness, it can have a lasting impact on the world.
So true. And it reminds us that we're all connected in ways that we might not even realize.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question.
I'm ready.
What precautions do you take in your own life to stay safe?
What lessons have you learned from your own experiences or from the experiences of others?
And what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, think about that.
We encourage you to share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #DeepDiveSafety.
We'd love to hear from you.
Because every single day is a chance to write a new chapter in your story.
Make it a good one.